Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Love Talk. I'm James. This is my wife, Helena. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Today we have a great show prepared for you. We're going to talk about a second chance at love. If you've had a bad experience, if you've suffered, you've been troubled by a past relationship, is there a second chance? Can you be happy? In fact, Helena,
or if you don't mind me interrupting, is it too late?
Yeah, because a lot of people think, look, you know, I've had children, I was in a relationship for a while, it didn't work. Is it ever going to work? Some people think like this. Is it ever going to work?
It can work. We are going to show them after the break. We have some lovely guests in here tonight who will share their story. And I have know people who, for example, even my parents, you know, they had many problems in their marriage, but then eventually they worked things out and then they got back together after they divorced. So it's never late. I mean.
But we want to pose a question here to you. If you have a problem in a relationship, things are not going really well, you feel that you're not being treated really well, what do? Do you try to work things out or do you jump ship? Think about that. The relationship is not going great. Imagine you are going through some problems. Maybe this is happening to you right now. And what do? Do you jump ship? Do you say sayonara? Enough is enough?
Yeah, we actually have some answers from our Facebookers, right? But before we go into them, I'm just going to mention our web address for you to visit our web address. We will be posting tips and many other things weekly. It's www.lovetalkshow.tv and our Facebook page is Love Talk Show and also our Twitter, okay? Get tweeting at Love Talk Show, okay?
So yeah, some
absolutely, yes. We had quite a few people. One of them, Jeff, said like this: if you're not happy, move on, even if you have kids. Even if it's hard, just move on. We also have Jasmine who said, move on because people don't generally change. What do you think of this?
Yeah, I just think it's not black and white like that. The thing is, in a relationship, you are going to have problems. And if the question is, if you're having problems in a relationship, do you get out or do you work at it? You're not going to get out of the relationship because your husband's not giving you enough time or because he spends too much time, in your opinion, with his friends. These are things that can be worked out. In fact, Helena, one of the complaints of women a lot is this, is that the husband spends too much time with his friends, with football,
or he has too many girlfriends.
That's a different matter.
No, you know, spending time with friends, some of them, it's okay for them to have feminine friends, you know what I mean, female friends.
Yes, but that's a different, I think that's a different matter. What I meant is that he spends too much time with the boys, watching football, and those are things that can be worked out.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
I agree.
I think even in the beginning when we got married, it was like this, you know, you have to find a balance. So you're not going to jump ship because, you know, he spends too much time with his friends. What you should do is you have to try to work things out. But they are deal breakers, right, Elena? What in your mind, in your opinion, is a deal breaker that you can't just work things out?
If you are being a victim of violence, I mean, you shouldn't accept that. You should love yourself enough to say, you know what, I deserve better. So this is like, there's not even a question mark or should I not. Don't even go into that. If you are being abused physically or, well, verbally abused, then you should just move on.
Yeah, I think also if there's infidelity, for example, if there's been unfaithfulness, you know, you can't just say it's all right, you know, it's fine. Like I remember in our first program, one of the people that were interviewed on the street said, it's fine because no matter how many times he betrays me, he's my husband.
And I'll always be there for him.
Yeah.
Really, I don't think she was ever betrayed, because if she was, I don't think she would say what she said.
Well, we
never know.
We never know. But the bottom line is this, and what we have to understand is that there are things that can be worked at. Okay, you can solve easily. There are things that cause problems, arguments, but they can be solved. You know, this thing of the husband spending too much time with his friends or the partner spending too much time with his friends is usually a cause for a lot of complaints and arguments. But you can solve that. You can't end the relationship because of that, right?
And many people go through that, mostly because of lack of maturity.
I think, Elena, it's good for us to talk about something with this thing of too much time. Many partners spend a lot of time on the PlayStation.
Oh dear,
right?
I have so much to talk about. Not that he does that.
Yeah, I don't even own one, but a lot of couples complain about this.
Yes, we hear that a lot, and that's, yeah, I think we should save this for another show because this...
Yeah, but again, you know, this is something that can be solved. These are problems that can be solved. What you need to be careful is that you can't just end things very easily because of a little problem like this. But they are deal breakers, and if it is a deal break, if there's violence, if there's unfaithfulness, things like this, then of course, you know, I think some people will say, but if there's unfaithfulness, you should forgive. I agree with forgiveness, you know, if it happened once, maybe, and the choice is yours. But
yeah, we will never tell you leave him or leave her. It's something that you need to sit down. Only you and your partner can do that. Sit down, talk things over. Why did this happen? What happened? And then, you know, only you can decide. But when it comes to violence, it's something different. I've got another comment, which is from Liana Caesar. She says like this: you address a situation with each other, and if it's falling on deaf ears, then it's time to reevaluate what you both want. So that's another intelligent.
Yeah, that I agree with, because for example, if there was a mistake in the relationship and the person changes, actually one of the comments you read said people don't change. People do change. People change.
She said generally.
Yeah, generally people don't change. The truth is that people change. It's difficult for people to change. But if you want to change, you can. But I think you can change. You can, like she said, if it's falling on deaf ears, then it's better to call it quits, because there's no point for the problem to be repeating itself. Again, just for us to go back, if it's something simple, something silly, you're not gonna, if I told you, Elena, you spend too much time on the phone with your girlfriends, you know, it's a problem, but I'm not gonna divorce you because of that, right?
Yeah, or because I've heard that this has caused problems in some people's marriage, which I think it's like, you know, lack of maturity is, or she can't cook, or she's not a good housewife. Sometimes you have to be patient, you know, you need to, this is not something you just have a marriage problem about. And
until, remember that maybe she can't cook, but you, man, you should learn to cook as well, right? We are in 2012, right? Exactly. So there has to be a balance there. We're going to go to a break in a few minutes, but I want to talk a little bit more about the subject of today, a second chance at love. You know, many people have been in a situation that they say like this: look, I've reached a point where I think that all men are the same, all women are the same, because every relationship I've had, I've been used, and I don't want to suffer anymore. The truth is, if you're going to be alone, you can be alone for a while, but if you don't want to suffer being alone, the person ends up suffering, because nobody wants to be alone, right?
And you know, the woman might think like this. Let me talk from a woman's perspective. Oh, you know, I don't want to be hurt again. I don't know if I should take another, you know, try again. But there's somewhere, there's a man who also thinks the same. And can you see what happens? Both sides are like afraid to try again. So, I mean,
in fact,
you should give it a go.
In fact, the two guests that are going to be here today, Arnold and Yvette, they're going to talk about this. They're a perfect example of this, of, you know, having a second chance. They both had children. They'll tell you a little bit more about this, but understand this, that everybody deserves to be happy in their love life. Everybody wants it, and everybody should. And if you've had a bad experience, it doesn't mean that it's going to happen again. It's like me saying, I will never go to a Chinese restaurant because I went to one once and I got food poisoning. It doesn't mean you're going to get food poisoning in every Chinese restaurant. Actually, if you think like that... Which we
did once, actually.
Yeah.
We always go back, though.
But if you think like that, you're missing out, right?
Yeah,
and if you
absolutely.
think, Yeah, if the person thinks I'm not going to be in a relationship because I struggled, I suffered, then they're going to miss out, because it's actually great to be in a relationship that works.
It's amazing. I mean, you have a friend, you have a best friend, you have, you know, that other person is like almost your everything. Not your everything, but almost your everything. And it's such a good support in every single way. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah. So if you've been in this position, if you are in this situation now, that you say, look, I've tried. James, believe me, I have tried. I have tried different partners from different cultures, from different backgrounds, and I tell you, they're the same. So I have the pleasure to tell you that you're wrong.
Yes.
That there is someone for everyone, regardless of your age, of your situation.
Can I just tell you something quickly? Do you know why sometimes it doesn't work out again? It's because the person maybe is taking that bad experience to the next relationship.
The baggage of the past.
That's it, and that never works.
Yeah, so
you know, so that's why
we're going to hear from Arnold and Yvette in a few moments, and you know, maybe you can learn something amazing from their experience, their relationship, because they have an amazing story. So stay with us. We'll be back in just a few moments. Hello, welcome back to the Love Talk. Today we're talking about the second chance at love. And if you're watching us now, you've had a bad experience, you're carrying baggage from the past, a bad relationship. Maybe you've said that you've given up on relationships, you've given up on love. So we want to show you that it doesn't have to be like that. In fact, we have a couple here today with us, a wonderful couple, very happy couple, right? Arnold and Yvette. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
So both of you've had, you were in relationships before, they didn't work out, and then afterwards you met.
Yeah.
But Yvette, you were telling us a little bit about your situation before we started, and when you were in a long-term relationship before, right?
Yeah, 17 years. Yeah, 17 years from I was 19 years old, and we had 2 children. And it just,
a long time.
Yeah, a long time. It just came to an end, really. Infidelity, and kind of decided enough is enough one day.
Okay.
So
when that happened, how did you feel when the relationship ended? I mean, did you think this is it for me?
yeah, I kind of got to the point that I thought, you know what, I don't really mind if I'm single now. I've had enough. I can't take any more of this, and yeah, so I'll just kind of see where it takes me. Yeah, so I definitely wasn't looking for another relationship. After 17 years, I thought time out, spend some time with the kids, and just kind of get back to being me again.
Right. I don't know, Elena, is it true that it's easier for women to say what Yvette said, you know, this is it, I don't want another relationship, than it is for men? I don't know.
Of course not. Usually, I think that from what I hear, women are afraid of terminating a relationship because they are so attached to, you know, the whole idea of being together with someone. You got so used to the person.
Yeah, in hindsight, I should have probably done it earlier. But you're right, I didn't know. You know, children, it's not just myself. I'm thinking about the children.
You were very brave, actually.
Yeah.
Because even if you remained in that relationship, your kids would end up suffering as well.
Yeah, that's what. In the end, I thought, you know, I could carry on until the kids were gone, whatever. Then I thought I'm going to be quite old by then and unhappy. And I just thought I'd rather make the break while I still had a chance to do a bit of life.
And what about you, Arnold? Did you ever say, I don't want a relationship anymore? I think for men, usually they don't say that. Do they say that?
No, I mean, I found myself, I wandered through a couple of long-term relationships, like 10 years and 12 years. But to be quite honest, I don't think I've ever been in a situation where I've said, oh, I felt any trepidation about being on my own. I just went through relationships thinking, is this right or is this not quite right?
So if it's not, you know, just move on, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've stayed in a couple of long-term relationships, which I probably now, in hindsight, look back and knew weren't quite right at the time. But I, just stayed in them for a length of time. But I don't think I ever had the experience of, I can't end this because I don't know where I'm going to be if I do end this.
Yeah.
It just, time just passed by.
It's not typical for women. I'm sorry to say that.
Yeah.
It's true because we always try. It's not a bad thing. We always try to keep the family together.
Yeah.
Let me try, you know,
Yeah.
harder. Let me try this. Let me
Yeah.
try that. But sometimes you can't just.
Yeah, I didn't want
just
my
have to
children
move
to be
on.
like part of, you know, a broken home. Like, I just want, you know, mum and dad. My parents were still together after 50 years, you know, and I wanted that for my children. So I kind of stood it longer than I should
the
have.
thing that a lot of people at home think is this, you know, if a long-term relationship breaks up and I'm on my own now, then, you know, they sort of close themselves off from the world. But you actually started doing something interesting. What was your reaction? I mean, initially you thought, I don't know if I'm going to have another relationship, but you started doing something positive actually.
Running, yeah, I started running.
You started running?
I was running literally every day at work, 5 days a week in lunch times, and then some weekends, and that's actually how I met Arnold, because I was out.
And that's an interesting story. You actually have a very funny story also you were telling us about when you started. Can we say dating or talking? Or tell us about that. You were telling us before the program. Is it okay if you talk about that?
Yeah, I was still not talking. I was saying that because I was in a relationship quite young for such a long time, when I then was single again, I was like, what do I do? You know, I've never dated before as an adult. Before when I was dating, I was at home, going home even to my parents' house. So it's like a kiss at the gate and goodbye. And now this is completely different. So
Times changed.
Yeah, that has changed. I was 36, my own house, and I was like, okay, this is a bit daunting now.
You're still very young.
Yeah, well, yeah, but yeah, it's just very.
I know what you
Yeah,
mean.
it's a new world to me. The dating as an adult was a new world for me.
Yeah. Was it a scary world or an exciting world? Or
Actually, it was a very scary world, to tell the truth, because before when I was younger, there was all these stuff around. So actually, I found it quite scary.
Can I just interject? She was that scared that when she turned up at my house for the first time, she had 2 bottles of champagne in her hand.
On the phone, we were talking, and we were talking about champagne.
Yeah.
So when he invited me round, I did turn up with 2 bottles of champagne. Yeah.
And, you know, Lena, she was saying that she started running, and you actually met through running, which you'll tell us in just a bit. But it's important that the person, if they've come from a broken relationship, they
invest in themselves. They have me time. Now it's me. I'm going to look after myself. I'm going to heal all the wounds. Because I was even going to ask you, when you met him, I mean, when you decided to go ahead with the dating and all that, I'm sure you didn't take with you all the bad experience, all the luggage that you had from the previous relationship, or did you?
Well, it's always on your mind. It's always on your mind. And I said, we actually got on really well and we talked quite a lot. And so he knew exactly why my last relationship broke up. So he kind of knew what I'd been through, and he's always been quite
communication is key.
Communication, isn't it?
Yeah. So I went with an open mind, but obviously you can't, you can't forget the past.
So 2 very important things. She invested in herself, and she also, they were communicating, which is 2 key things for a relationship to work.
Do you want to tell us about the running, how you guys met, or do you want to talk about it? Arnold,
you can do it.
Well, okay. From my perspective, it was one Sunday morning. I was heading to my mother's house. I'm not sure where I had to take my mother that day, but it was one of those, you do your duty as a son. Mum says, we've got to take her somewhere, so I'll turn up. And I walked in the house, and my older brother was there, and he had this friend with him that he'd been running with. And I walked in, saw this woman in some tight lycra running bottom. I thought, okay, this could work. So immediately, as you do, seize the moment and start the patter. And from there, really, we started communicating from there.
Yeah, we started talking.
Perfect timing, isn't it? Perfect timing. The runners, they are all, this kind of enthusiastic and let's go, full of energy.
The interesting thing is that it wasn't something forceful, right?
That's right.
It's something that happened naturally, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I was going to say. It's one of those situations, a lot of people say, you go to a club, you go to different places to meet people, but actually, if you're open to meeting people, it can just happen whenever it happens, really. In all walks,
Yeah, the person must be really close to you and you don't even notice, isn't it? You just have to...
That's right.
Yeah.
How long were you a friend of Arnold's brother before you met him?
probably, I don't know, about 6 months, I think. Not
6
too
months.
long, yeah. And we met, well, I used to work at the same place I worked, but I never saw him through work. But through in the gym, we had to go to the gym lunch times, and he used to be running as well. So we used to run around the South Bank, and then we entered a fun run. And so he was training at the weekends for the fun run.
So for 6 months, he was just under your nose, but you didn't know it.
You see,
right.
the person must be really close to you and you just don't see it.
Yeah.
Tell us something. How were the challenges? Because you had children,
Yeah.
right? You had children as well,
Yes,
Arnold.
yeah.
And you had a daughter afterward in your relationship
Yeah.
now. How were the challenges, getting the relationship to work with children and being that you weren't, teenagers anymore? How was that?
It's difficult because from my perspective, in terms of, especially when we started our relationship, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't coming in saying, I'm replacing your father. The relationship that I build with them is whatever that is, in whatever that capacity is, but the one thing I'm definitely not doing is replacing your father. So there is that slow build that happens. Jourdain, the youngest girl, was 5 years old. And if you like, was a little more open to me because she was just a 5-year-old. Kadeem, the older boy, who was 11 going on 12 at the time. Obviously, there was a little bit more resistance going on there. But I'm quite a straight person. I won't try too hard, but and we just developed from there. I mean, we had our moments.
It's a process, isn't it?
Yeah.
We had our moments, but then having said that, now we are quite rock solid. The funniest moment I can say from that is that all the way along there was this obvious resistance from him. He wouldn't, he'd be very loyal to his father, as it were.
Right.
So he'd find it very difficult to ask me for things or go that extra mile to say, actually, I do need you here. But there was a moment when we were out in Jamaica, out there for a wedding, and Kadeem was out there, and we packed his clothes, packed his suit, and we said, right, pack your shoes. Shoes fine? He says, yes. When we get there, the shoes are worn out, totally worn out. And there was this moment where we were there, and we heard a knock on the door. And in walks my father-in-law with his grandson, screaming about his shoes were just that terrible that he could not wear them to a wedding. He was not going to have his grandson embarrass him like this. And what he's done is he's taken out his special classic shoes and given them to his grandson.
From 1970.
Exactly. They were classic in their time. And all you could see really was Kadeem behind him, the younger son behind him, with these eyes which were just screaming at us, help me, please, no matter what, help me. And there was that moment when I looked at him and I said, okay, do you want to wear a pair of my shoes? And and at that point, I think is where the bond really started to form.
First bonding experience.
Yeah, because it was one of those things where, as far as he was concerned, you've done me this great favour. No matter what happens in life, I will always repay you.
Be indebted. But it's very interesting to see your story, because a lot of people, if they were in your situation, Yvette, they would have given up in love, in relationship. I even said to you before the program started that a lot of women would say men are all the same. They have. We've heard that a lot, right? But it's good to know that you thought, you believed there was a second chance at love. You met Arnold and things worked out differently.
James, she wasn't like, from what she's telling us, she wasn't like desperate to find a man.
Yeah.
She was like looking after you were looking after yourself.
And they always say it's least when you least expect it, and that Sunday morning, in my life.
What a Sunday morning that was, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. I remember just thinking when you walked in, oh my God, he's gorgeous.
I bet he saw the same of you.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
So it's interesting to see, actually, we were saying that when the person gets desperate, they need someone. Actually, that's when they make mistakes, because when you get too desperate for something, then you don't think properly, and you end up making mistakes. That didn't happen with you. It was something natural. It wasn't forceful at all. And I just want to say to you at home, if you're watching us now, that whatever the situation is that you've been through in your love life, in fact, Elena, there's a couple I know a couple that they got married. I think he was 64 and she was 61, right? They met, and within that 1 year they got married. So, it's you don't need to be worried whether all men are the same or all women are the same, because there is a chance, a second chance. In fact, there's a third chance and a fourth chance.
There's many chances. As long as you don't get desperate and you don't start comparing people to, you know, other people you've met, and bringing your luggage from your old luggage to your present relationship. You know, the past is the past. That's why it's called the past, is to be left in the past. You know, it's move on, take care of yourself like our friend Yvette here did, and things will happen naturally.
And the best thing is that if there were mistakes in the past, you learn from them and move on. Listen, the past is only good for two things: museums, right? and for you to learn from your mistakes. And if you can do that, then you'll be fine. Arnold and Yvette, I wanted to thank you for coming here. You're a wonderful couple, very happy. And very nice to meet you. And I hope that your example was an inspiration to others.
I just would like quickly to remind our viewers at home of our web address. It's lovetalkshow.tv, and also we will be posting questions on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook is Love Talk Show as well, and Twitter Love Talk Show. Okay, so please stay tuned and
get in contact.
Exactly.
Until next time, have a wonderful night. We'll see you next time.